Hey everybody, welcome to episode 59 of Joys of Games podcast. I am one of your hosts. I am on vacation mode. I am Josh Brown. I am joined by the man who lives, breathes, repeats Metroid. Hi, Colin.
Evening.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. So I've got this idea.
Yeah.
Okay, bear with me.
Yeah.
I'm going to be kickstarting this game. It's called Etroid Ma.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this bounty hunter.
Okay.
In space.
Right. Totally a dude, right?
No, I was thinking we'd do like a female protagonist because
risky.
I think it makes sense. I think it'd be really cool to have like a strong female protagonist in like a big old orange suit.
Yeah.
Going in space and exploring like Breath of the Wild like size worlds.
Sure.
And like solving puzzles and like the cool thing is though is like as you're going through the game,
right,
you need specific like tools and stuff to progress even further. So you kind of have to backtrack, so you're exploring even more.
Like Castlevania.
Yeah, kind of like Castlevania. So
perfect.
I'm gonna need $60 million.
Okay.
And the backer goals will get a smiley face sticky note.
Okay.
Smiley face is made by me.
Ooh.
They do need to pay for a stamp because
hand-drawn?
Stamps aren't cheap. Yes, it's hand drawn.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But I'll need 50 cents per stamp because stamps aren't cheap.
Sure.
In addition to the $60 million.
I feel like that's fair.
Yeah, so I'm gonna put that up. It is live now. Be sure to check that out, everybody.
Question.
Yes.
Before I back this.
Okay.
Say this female protagonist in the giant orange suit who's trying to solve puzzles.
Yeah.
Say she gets to this point where there's like a little hole, right? Just like a little tiny hole that she's too big because of her suit to crawl through.
Yeah.
What does she do to get through it?
So I'm thinking, like, I have a lot of inspiration, right? Like, everything, like, the creativity is just flowing.
Sure.
And just right off the bat, I'm thinking of an egg. I'm going to turn her into, like, an oval egg, and she's going to, like, wobble through these little areas.
I like it. Sold.
Okay, cool.
You have my money.
All right, good.
60 million, you said?
Yeah.
Should I just make the check out to you, or?
You can actually make it out to my company. It's called Avocado Toast.
I did not see that joke coming. Oh, Colin, what are we even doing here? This week we're talking about PlayStation, as you can tell.
Yeah.
This is definitely
it's going to be on multi-platform, too, including PlayStation 4.
Perfect. There we go. Come full circle already. This is the week of PlayStation. We are going to talk about all things PlayStation. Probably a lot more other things as well. Because let's be real, the show has transformed quite a bit since the origins of said beginnings of show. We don't have a ton of PlayStation news per se to cover. There are a few PlayStation games I want to talk about, so that's going to be exciting. It's kind of unfortunate though that we did the Xbox episode last week, and struggled to pull out anything we possibly could to talk about Xbox. If we were just patient and waited a week, Colin, we would have had something to talk about.
It's true.
I feel like you need to tell the people what's going on in the world of Xbox just to like make up for last week's atrocious attempt to talk Xbox.
Yeah, so Microsoft several years back announced that they were going to be doing a Phantom Dust reboot. The reboot fell through, but they still wanted to pursue the IP, so they remastered the original Xbox game, which is a cult classic. Not a lot of people played it, so Microsoft kindly released it for free. So anybody that has an Xbox One or Windows 10 PC can download and play Phantom Dust for free.
Do you have to be a gold member?
You, from my understanding, do not. I think it's free for everyone.
Wow, that's even better.
Yeah.
Why do you think they did this? Just goodwill?
Yeah, I think it's goodwill. I think it's, from my understanding, there are some types of microtransactions within it, but I haven't really done much research on that.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, it's awesome that game is free. And I think another thing too, why they made it free is they're trying to gauge the interest in the IP.
That's right.
And what better way to do this? Release it for free and see if people stick with the game. Because if they download it and they stick with it for a while, generally that means that they're enjoying their experience and they're willing to go further with it. So
I feel like that's like a slippery slope as far as like making comparisons, though, because some people are just bored, and if they get a free game, like they'll put the hours into it if they have nothing else to play. You know, like Valson. He was talking to me the other day about like wanting to buy the old Saints Row games because they were on sale. I'm like, have you ever played Saints Row? He's like, no, but I mean, they're on sale and I don't really have anything else to play. I'm like, I don't know if that's a good reason to jump into Saints Row. Like, I'm sure a lot of people have fun with Saints Row, but you know, for me, it's not my cup of tea, and it's definitely not like the type of games that he's normally playing. So, you know, it was kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. That's yeah, for people that don't have like a lot of disposable income, I that is something to gauge. But like, there's much smarter people that look at those numbers and they can figure out what is what, and if a very large majority or enough to make an investment in a reboot or a sequel, then they may do that. So
right, definitely. Let's see. So that's our Xbox news of the week.
in the week of PlayStation.
Well, I mean, last week we didn't, so you know we got to make up for it. What's going on? Is there anything? I mean, okay, so tomorrow is a big day for Nintendo.
Right. Mm-hmm.
There's a direct going on. ARMS.
Yep. We finally get to find out if ARMS is going to have legs. So.
Stop it! No, everybody on the internet is making that joke, and I'm already done with it.
But I just said it. I'm on the internet. My voice is on the internet.
Be better than that, Colin. It was funny the first time.
It's still funny.
Is it, though?
Well, I'm a dad. You're a dad, too. Yeah. You should appreciate dad jokes.
But I definitely am not a dad joke kind of guy. You know this well about me.
Well...
You'd think so. You'd think I would be, but I'm not.
Well,
totally.
Okay.
Anyway, so that's tomorrow for Nintendo.
Yep.
Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Not Ubisoft. Whoa. Destiny.
Yes.
That's a thing. That's not Ubisoft.
Activision.
Bungie. There we go. I have Ubisoft on the brain.
Yeah.
For some reason.
That's not surprising because there's so much going on with that company.
That and everybody was excited about the press conference that was announced today finally, and I'm just like, does anybody remember Ubisoft's press conference last year at E3?
So bad.
And yeah, there's some games that they might be showing that I might be excited to see, but I don't want to sit through the rest of their conference. I will pick up the highlight reel after the fact because they put on really bad conferences.
Yeah, the only third-party publisher that I think that does a good job at conferences is Bethesda.
Sure.
I think EA is by far the worst.
Yeah.
And Ubisoft is the second worst. And then, yeah.
EA is just boring. Ubisoft just tries too hard. And Bethesda's pretty good, I guess. I'm not a fan of Bethesda games, mostly. Yeah. So it doesn't do anything for me. Again, I like seeing just like the highlight reels after the fact.
That makes sense.
You know, talking to me for 20 minutes about what Fallout, DLC is going to be. I'm just like, it's... Okay.
Right. I remember EA, it was either last year or 2 years ago. It was the one where Star Wars Battlefront was going to come out, and they made you wait till the very end to see the trailer, and we had to sit through a Minions mobile game.
Yeah.
For like 5 minutes,
mm-hmm.
They showed this mobile game off. And then a very famous soccer player, I don't remember his name, Pele,
mm-hmm.
ramble like...
That was like a 20-minute segment.
Forever.
I was driving down to LA, and I remember you texting me as it was going on. You're like, I can't believe that they're still talking about soccer when all they want to do is just show off Star Wars. Like, you were just going off on text messages. It was hilarious.
I seriously, I was so confused. I got to the point where I went and did the dishes, and I came back and he was still talking. I was like, what is going on? Why would you do this? Why, EA? Why would you do this?
Because they're so oblivious to anything other than EA. Like, they are so just wrapped up in their own self-worth that it's They're incredible for so many ways.
Gosh. Ugh.
And then Ubisoft. It was
Weird
last
cons-
year. Was it last year where they did like the parade of like mascots and clowns and everything, and then like had like the moment of silence for the Orlando shooting? Like with all the mascots on stage, and it was like, why is there a giant giraffe juggling on his, taking a knee to show respect for like a mass murder? Like, that's weird.
Yeah, that was either last year or 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, because like it was just so strange, and they just like tried to like be sensitive, and I understand.
The thought was there, but like,
yeah, but the confusion was way higher than the thought.
Like, it's hard to take things seriously when you're looking at like giant fuzzy animals.
Yeah.
E3, man, what a spectacle! What a spectacle!
So weird.
Anyway, Thursday, Destiny 2.
Yes.
The big reveal.
Yeah.
How excited are you?
I'm really stoked. I actually just watched a stream of these crazy guys that did a flawless boss battle raid run, which flawless means nobody in the party dies at all throughout the entire raid.
Okay. You can take damage.
They can take damage, they just cannot die.
Okay.
So, flawless raid, killing all the raid bosses. There's 4 raid bosses.
Okay.
And they didn't shoot a single bullet.
What?
Also on the hardest difficulty.
Is that possible?
It is possible because they use grenades and they use their super abilities and melee.
Gotcha. Okay. I was going to say I didn't know you could do like a no killing version of Destiny.
Yeah, it's definitely not like a Dishonor where you can sneak past stuff. You definitely have to like do stuff. Okay. But I couldn't believe they did it. Like the amount of dedication to do that is just insane, because the video I watched was an hour long. Their entire stream of them trying to do it was 70 hours long.
70? 70?
Yes. So they were trying to do it for 70 hours.
So when you say trying, like they showed like their failure attempts?
I'm not going to watch a 70-hour stream, so I'm not sure.
It's potentially them actually playing it for 70 hours.
My guess is they played it for like 10 hours and then failed, archived that, then played it for another 10 hours or whatever. I don't think it was like
one run isn't 70 hours.
No. I think it's just like how long it took them to try to do this.
Because I mean, if you have to be that methodical with things, like I could see it being super long, but 70 hours seems a bit extreme.
It amazes me that they put that much time into a game that they know, like looking at the gear and their armor that they had, mm-hmm. like I could see that they play it all the time. They probably have every single weapon possible, every single thing you can get, and the fact that they're still playing it, it just shows how fun that gameplay loop can be. That they're creating their own metagame.
Sure,
they're creating the no slaps or all slaps in GoldenEye or all only grenades in Halo type of thing. Like that's really cool.
Yeah. It's a thing. Okay, so Destiny 2. Like, what do you want to see? What are you excited to see? Like, try to sell this on me based on your hopes and dreams of Destiny 2.
Yeah, so Destiny 2, I'm hoping that they make the accessibility a little bit more open to casual players, maybe like yourself. Like you're not a casual video game player, but you're a casual Destiny player.
I'm totally cash, dude.
Yeah, you downloaded that Minion game. I know. I understand. FIFA's coming out this year too, by the way, and Call of Duty.
Thank goodness.
So you're good.
Thank you, EA. Thank you so much.
You're good. Just kind of make it easier. Like trying to make it easier for new players and old players alike to understand the leveling systems. I would rather not have the light and the level. Just either have a level or the light, whichever. Just pick one.
Yeah.
I really hope that they do keep a similar loot system where they have some weapons that drop a lot less often. Basically, what I want them to do is I want it to be like Diablo, but in first person.
Okay.
Which is kind of what Destiny was like, sort of trying to be. but I also would like it to run better, obviously, look better, have more variety in the worlds that you're exploring. Because I felt like a lot of the like post game things that you could do were really limited and like extremely repetitive. So if they could give more variety, that would be great.
Okay.
But I mean, I know the gameplay is going to be great because it's Bungie and every game that they've made feels good.
Sure.
So I have no problem there. I just hope there's more accessibility, and there's also like I hope there's more options for people to play more single player if they want to. Like if you don't want, like if you don't have friends online or you don't want to play with someone else, I want them to be able to have a great single player experience. Yeah. But if you want, your buddies can come in and play with you.
That would be big for me.
Yeah, I think it'd be for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So
I just don't like the pressure of like, well, this game is only fun if you play with friends. I mean, you really need to play with friends. It's like, well, when I game, most of my friends aren't up, and sometimes I just don't want to deal with people. Sometimes I just want to get lost in my own little world.
Yeah.
Without having to either rely on somebody or hold back somebody, you know, based on who I'm playing with, and it's just too much to deal with sometimes.
Yep.
Most of the time, for me. I don't like people calling. I don't even play games with you.
Yeah.
Tonight, I played a game with you.
Yeah.
That was too much.
That was a lot.
I didn't have chat, and I didn't have to like interact with you in any way, shape, or form. So that was pretty good.
I definitely don't like talking to you, so it helps.
Have you seen like the screenshots of like the new characters?
I haven't. No, I haven't. I'm waiting for the reveal. Honestly,
you're
like
on blackout.
I'm not necessarily on blackout. Like if I see it on my Twitter feed, I'll be like, "That's cool," but I'm not actively like researching it either.
I see.
So I found that like the more that I research a game, the less the less thrilled I am when it comes out. Like Halo 5 was the last game that I got super hyped for and was like listening to any podcast, every podcast talking about it. And then by the time Halo 5 came out, like I feel like I knew everything about it.
Yeah. And
it just kind of deflated my experience. So
yeah, they did a lot of marketing for that game.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen them, and I was like, well, those are characters. I don't know necessarily how much different they are than the first time around. They have some gear on, some armor. Like, personally, like, I see the stuff, and, like, I'm not instantly attracted to, like, oh, look at that guy's gear, and blah, blah, blah. Like, I know for a lot of people that was a big thing in Destiny, but I never once, like, looked at any character and was like, oh my god, I need to spend 10 more hours so I can get that stuff. Like, whatever, I don't care. Just let me play, you know?
Yep.
I know aesthetics is a big thing for people, especially when they invest that much time and you know, energy into, like, their game.
Yeah, and it's with Destiny 2, like, it's not just aesthetics, it's not just like a skin. Well, there are some skins, but like a lot of the gear is like has an effect that's like super specific, like one that can make you jump one extra time than you were able to before, or one that makes you run faster, or one that, you know, gives you better reload speed, like all that stuff. But like when they're showing promotional shots for Destiny 2, nobody knows what that gear is. So right. I don't see anybody but the insane, like, crazy Destiny fans getting super hyped for it yet because you have no idea what it is.
Yeah. Somebody was like, "Oh, that's a cool Guardian," or I don't know. What are the classes?
Titan, Warlock, and Hunter.
Hunter, right? So yeah, somebody's commenting about how cool the Hunter looks. And I'm like, how do you know that's a Hunter? I don't. Sure, whatever. Like, they're all just people shooting people. So I don't know. I need to be wowed, Colin. I want to be wowed.
I hope it wows you. I really do.
Yeah. It may not.
I'm excited.
Just be more the same.
Yeah, that's true. I hope it's not, though. I hope it's a whole. I hope it's. I don't want to say it's a Halo 2 to Halo 1 because Halo 2 was, from a single player perspective, was a disappointment, but from a multiplayer perspective was just so different in a good way.
Right.
Because I love Halo 1's multiplayer as well, but Halo 2 is just, it was so radically different from Halo 1's multiplayer, but still so good. So I hope it's like that.
Yeah.
I also am very excited, the collector in me is excited that they made a deal with McFarlane Toys, so they're making really cool 6-inch figures.
Mm-hmm.
And they're also making Funko Pops.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so I might be picking up a few of those.
You're such a shill, Colin.
Yep.
I remember at PAX you were oogling and ogling over the Destiny merch booth, and
yeah, if only I had $140 to spend on a fake knife.
Yeah, I was enjoying seeing you so excited about something. Yeah, I wish I had that for this game. Like, I wanted to have it, but I was so burnt right off the bat from it, where, man,
yeah,
it was so polarizing.
I totally am with you there. Like, I wouldn't say I was disappointed, but I enjoyed it a lot more than people that bounced off like almost right away and didn't even complete the like full like main campaign.
Yeah.
And what brought me back in was a buddy of mine was just like, who said he hated the game when it came out, but he had like one of his online best friends were playing it and they were playing together, and he like figured out the meta game and understood like what all the gear is and stuff, and like brought me on board.
Right.
And that's what got me super into it. So maybe you just need someone that's like a Sherpa that can kind of like guide you through all the weird systems and stuff like that.
Maybe I feel like I bounce off games so quickly that was the biggest thing, is like feeling overwhelmed. Like, if I ever wanted to get back into it, like even if I played with somebody who had put in like a couple 100 hours into it, I still wouldn't feel like I should be playing the same game that they were, if that makes sense.
That's fair.
I remember doing like a raid with somebody or trying, and I was just like, I don't even remember who I was. I think I just jumped in with some randos, and maybe that was part of the problem. But it was just like, no. Maybe, did we play?
No, because I didn't get on PlayStation until way later.
That's true. Man.
Yeah, and I barely played on PlayStation.
Yeah, it must have been maybe just random people. I don't remember, but it was like, sure, cool. But like, I'm never going to be that guy to invest that kind of time into. I mean, unless Destiny 2 is severely different. Like Destiny 1, like it was just like the repeat. Like, how many times can you do this specific raid? How many times can you just wander around and do these missions? Like, it was just all this giant loop. Like, I get bored and I'll move on, Granted, like, I do have the capability to pick up a lot of games and spend time playing other things, whereas not everybody has that opportunity, and I'm aware of that. So, like, for some people, just digging in and making one game their game for a very long time is something that they have to do financially, and I get that. I understand that. But it's also overwhelming to get to be in the game with somebody like that who's just jumping in casually to check it out every once in a while.
Yeah, and I just want to add to what you're saying, too, that like I think it's actually really great that there are these service, quote-unquote, style games for people that, either, one, want to dedicate a lot of time to it, or two, only have the means to dedicate enough time to one game. So,
right. No, I fully applaud them. I'm a big fan of what they do, and they bring a lot of pleasure to a lot of people, and I will never dispute that. I just have a short attention span, and if I get bored and want to move on with something, I am just going to do that. And that's why I'm kind of looking for like a more solid single player campaign where I could go in and I could feel like I could play this game when I want and not be overwhelmed by this entire population of other people playing that are hundreds and hundreds of hours already past me.
Yeah.
Like Zelda,
Yeah.
Like that's a perfect example. Like, I put in 160 hours into Zelda, but I did it on my own time. I never had to worry about other people. I never had to feel overwhelmed by anybody else. I didn't have to encounter anybody. It was all just me whenever I wanted.
Yep. Accessibility. This is a huge thing that they really need to work on. So,
or if not, if you're just going to go like the MMO route and that's the type of game that you want to do, then just lean into that all the way. Don't don't make like this weird middle ground of like trying to entice like the single players in, if that's not the game that you're trying to dish out, you know? I have no problems with them just being like a straight up MMO.
Yeah, it didn't help that the game was like in development hell like forever.
Right.
Like the entire time, like major people were coming and going on that project.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just kind of...
I just don't want them to be wishy-washy with their direction, I guess is what I'm saying.
And I don't think they will. I think this is going to be like... This is going to be what Destiny 1 was supposed to be.
Yeah.
They had the director who did the Taken King expansion, which is the best content that Destiny 1 ever got, on just all around, not only the updates that they made to the systems, but the raids, the side missions that you could do, the environments that you can explore, like by far the best piece of content. So that gives me hope right there alone.
Yeah. So we'll see, man. What time Thursday is that?
Oh, I want to say it's 10 a.m.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you'll have to text me. I will be in Vegas. I will probably have a drink or two by then.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to be watching any streams of video games being announced, but I encourage you to text me and let me know what you think.
I will. Absolutely.
Maybe just throw in some curveballs in there to see how much I'm paying attention or what I will remember by the time I get back from Vegas. But, you know, it should be fun. I'm excited that you're so excited for it.
Yes.
And I'm excited for everybody that is a big fan of Destiny, because I know it's a huge community out there. I want it to be what everybody wants it to be, you know? And if it's not a game for me, I'm okay with it. I'm not going to be bummed. I'm not going to be upset. And I think more people need to take that thought pattern of, like, not every single game has to cater to every single player out there.
Right.
It's okay. It's okay not to like a game for whatever reasons you have, but it's conversely not okay to completely trash a game or the people playing it just because you don't like it. So, that's that. Thursday, Destiny 2.
Yeah.
Exclusive to PlayStation 4.
No.
Oh, what? Oh, do you know for sure?
Yeah, it's on Xbox One and PC.
Perfect. Nintendo Switch coming this fall.
Yes. I hope so.
Would you pick it up on Switch?
Yeah, for sure. I would love... It won't happen because it's just not powerful enough, but I would love to be able to just take that and play literally anywhere.
What if that's their big one last thing? Like, they walk off stage and they come back and they're like, oh, by the way. And then you hear, like, Mario's music play.
We got Mario skins.
There's, like, a level you travel to a planet called the Mushroom Kingdom.
Oh, man.
You just shoot a bunch of Goombas.
That sounds like a horribly great idea.
Question: would you get it on multiple systems at that point?
Yeah. I'd still get it on Xbox and Switch.
Okay.
I'm already contemplating, like, if I'm gonna get it. Like, I'm only gonna get it probably on Xbox first.
Mm-hmm.
But there's, like, a lot of times they'll do extra content for PS4, and I have other PS4 friends. And then I look at PC, and the PC's got to run better. So basically what I'm saying is I'm just going to buy it 3 times and call it good.
Well, you won't need to get it on PC, because the Xbox copy will work on PC, right?
No, well, it depends on the deal that they make. If it's an Xbox Play Anywhere game, yes. But if it's not, which I doubt it because it's Activision, I don't think Activision is going to be willing to...
That's true. They like money.
They like money,
yeah.
So...
That's fair. So. All right, well, 3 copies already sold. They're doing well.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. PlayStation news? Do we have any, like, big PlayStation news at all? I mean, we're a few weeks away from E3, so all quiet's on the Western fronts. Next week, we'll be doing our big E3 prediction episode.
Very excited about that.
That's
still
fun.
Yes.
But do we have anything out of the world of PlayStation?
There was Ubisoft, not like PlayStation specific, but kind of like indirectly. The Ubisoft earnings happened today, and they announced that Far Cry 5 is happening. As a big Far Cry fan yourself,
Yes.
I have to ask you the same question you asked me about Destiny 2.
Sure.
What do you want from Far Cry 5?
More Far Cry.
Oh, just more Far Cry.
Absolutely.
You don't feel like it's going to feel stale?
I don't care. I mean, I'm a big fan of what they're doing. It's the fun single player game that I could just jump into and have ridiculous fun with without having to think too much. It's not mentally strenuous in any shape or form. Now, they were teasing the island from Far Cry 3. What was that, last week or 2 weeks ago?
Oh, yeah, on, I think it's Instagram.
Yeah, they kind of showed the island, but then they showed, like, a pulled back view, and there's, like, a skull underneath the water of the island. So I don't know if they're going back to that island for Far Cry 5, or maybe they're going to put out a remastered version of 3 alongside 5. I don't care. I just want more Far Cry, to be honest. Far Cry 3 was such an incredible experience. Far Cry 4, excellent. Far Cry Blood Dragon, so rad. Far Cry Primal, super creative in ways that, like, most people will never fully understand, like how you could make a shooter out of prehistoric Neanderthal times when guns did not exist. Crazy. But they've just done so many crazy, weird things, and, like, they never take themselves too seriously in the games, and that's what I appreciate. Like, they're never trying to be more than what they advertise as being. Like, they've never promised their stories are going to be, like, super serious and emotionally deep, or like have, like, really strong, interesting characters. Like, they put a lot of thought and effort into their villains, which usually it's the other way around. Like, usually you get, like, really bland, boring, basic bad guy villains, and, like, really deep protagonists. And Far Cry is just like, nah, we're just gonna have some, like, basic dudes be the guy that you're playing, because we don't even care, but, like, we're gonna have fun with these bad guys. Like, we're gonna make them twisted and evil in so many different fun ways that, like, I love how they just dig into that kind of stuff. I love the mechanics that they offer. Like, I don't care, like, the weird supernatural stuff that they do. Everything just kind of seems fun. I mean, in Far Cry 3, there was a level or a mission where you had to take a flamethrower to a giant crop of marijuana plants. And the entire time you're doing this, reggae music is playing in the background, and, like, you're just lighting this entire field of marijuana on fire. Oh, come to find out, like, the drug lords that are running the drug operation there on that island were not too happy with you, and chaos ensued. But it's just like, that's such a weird thing. Like, are they promoting drug use? Are they saying they're anti-drug use? Like, the lines were very blurred there, you know? Because your character is definitely, like, inhaling the smoke that's coming from the burning marijuana plants. Intentionally, unintentionally, hard to say. But, like, they just lean into that stuff, and they just have fun with it. So, what am I looking for from Far Cry 5? I just want them to do more of what they've been doing, you know? Like, the Assassin's Creed franchise started feeling stale and boring because, for one, it was the same thing over and over again, but on the other hand, there were so many monotonous gameplay mechanics that people were just bored with, like climb a tower and you unlock this part of the map, and then all of a sudden there's 86 different things to do on this map, and it was just like the same cycle on a yearly basis. I don't think Far Cry has fallen into those traps yet, because they've been weird enough to do Blood Dragon and Primal and mix things up and have weird DLC packs like Yeti hunting, and you're, like, going and fighting giant Yetis in the Himalayas, which are horrific, very scary animals, and I just appreciate them for never really doing the same thing over and over again. Like, their games all feel the same, but that familiarity isn't necessarily boring because everything just kind of works the way it should in those games.
There's definitely a couple things that I want to happen for me to pick it up. Just because I played the original Far Cry to death. I played a little bit of 3, I played quite a bit of 4. 1, I loved 4's co-op mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see that extended out to the entire game, not just like specific side missions that you can do, because goofing off with a friend and like messing up the environment and stuff and seeing like how much trouble you can get into is just so much fun.
Right.
And then I want the gameplay just to be a little bit more varied this time around. Like, I don't want it to be just like 4's gameplay, because that was like one of the issues that I had with Fallout 4 was like basically the mechanics were almost exactly the same. They just made it look a little bit prettier.
Sure.
And I imagine Far Cry 5 is going to look phenomenal because it's the first main entry into the series that has not been cross-gen, because
right.
Far Cry 4 was 360 and 360 PS3, and then Xbox One and PS4. So I'm excited to see, like, if they do go the jungle route again, like a really nice lush environment to like run around in and you know, blow up.
Right. Yeah.
But like, if they are going to lean into the like non-seriousness, I would love to see like a first person like Just Cause, but obviously Far Cry.
Sure.
Like, that'd be really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I appreciate Far Cry, how you could play the game kind of how you want. Like, you have to take out the outposts and bases and forts and stuff, but you could do it stealthily, or you could just go in, grenade launcher, you know, blazing, and just blow everything up in sight. I don't know. It's just incredibly fun. It never felt overwhelming at any point in any of the games. Like, it always felt like just enough gameplay. Like, if you wanted to go the extra mile and collect everything and do every side mission, you totally could, but it never felt like you needed to for the sake of the story. Whereas, like, Assassin's Creed, I always felt like I was missing something with the games if I wasn't doing all the side quests, because, like, there would be story elements in those side quests. Whereas, like, Far Cry is just like, whatever. Just do your thing.
Not hyper serious, not really narrative driven, so.
Yeah. So that's what I want from Far Cry 5. If they go back to the jungle, awesome. If they go somewhere else, I mean, I guess people were speculating that it might be, like, in Montana or something.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I heard that rumor, so.
Yeah, that'd be super weird.
Yeah, Montana's a weird state, man. There's not a lot of things going on in Montana.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of animals to kill.
Yeah.
So, that's a thing. Buffalo? You know they're hunting buffalo in Montana.
It would just be weird to like see that, and I know Red Dead Redemption is like obviously like an old Western game, but like it would be weird to see those two games have similar aesthetics come out, because a lot of Montana is just desert.
Yeah.
So,
but the big difference would be like Red Dead 2 being like in the past, and then like if it's just like present day Montana, like just go for it. You know, it's like still Western theme, but like with all the benefits of having modern day weapons and such.
Right.
Just lean into it. Anyway, I'm excited. Far Cry 5.
Yeah, me too.
It's a dumb, fun game that, like I said, you could play co-op if you want, and if not, like, you could totally play it by yourself, and it's dumb fun. So, that being said, Colin, there's a couple games I want to talk about.
Yeah.
First of all, Injustice 2.
Oh, yeah.
Came out today.
Mm-hmm.
Picked it up for the PlayStation. I've played about an hour of it so far. I did a basic tutorial section, which I don't really need the tutorial for fighting games, except I needed a refresher course on environmental attacks, how to pick up things in the background and use them as weapons, how to jump off things to do cool combos, and then also how to punch your opponent through walls and do stage changes. So I needed to do the tutorial for that stuff, right? important things to do. But then I jumped into the story, and wow, right off the bat, like it is, it's such a fantastic story. Like, and like I've several, like 4 or 5 fights so far. Like the cutscenes and the movies in between them, I was just like instantly just falling in love with them. It's amazing that the story that they're telling isn't something that I could just sit down and watch on the big screen. Like, that is disappointing. Like, this is the DC story that I would be most fascinated with learning about. Like, Injustice 1, like, when you got into, like, the alternate dimensions and, like, that kind of stuff, like, it is definitely not big screen ready, per se, you know, for mainstream audience. Because you do have to kind of let down your guard a little bit on what you accept as possible. But this one so far, like, is just straight up, like, Superman trying to kill a bunch of supervillains, Batman being like, nah, you can't do that, and Superman being like, yeah, actually I can, because I'm Superman. Early on, like, it might be a little bit of a spoiler, but, you know, I'm just warning now, if you don't want to hear it, fast forward a little bit, but Robin turns on Batman and joins Superman, because Robin's all about that killing. And he kills somebody, like, right off the bat, without thinking twice. Batman's trying to stop him. I'm not going to tell you who he kills, because it's actually a character you'll know and be familiar with. And it's like, oh, okay, didn't see that guy.
Spider-Man. Spider-Man, right?
No. But, like, Batman's like, no, Damian, you can't do this. I raised you better than that. And, like, he looks at him, he goes, you didn't raise me. The League of Assassins raised me. And then, like, kills the guy. And it's like, whoa! Whoa, I like this Robin. Like, this is... Like, I feel this conflict just instantly. And then, like, you know, him and Superman are, like, teaming up and going on this killing spree. And it's like, this is dark and weird in ways that DC doesn't normally go. They're very protective over their... guidelines for their characters, you know. And like Batman still isn't like going out and killing a bunch of people yet. I mean, he might change his tune, and like he's still like trying to stop people from killing. But like, when's the last time you ever saw Robin kill somebody? You know, like in straight up cold blood. And like Superman being an advocate for killing people. Like it's definitely fascinating. And so far, I just wish that like they could take this story and like reboot the entire DC cinematic universe and just like start with like this as like the groundwork of, okay, we could have like individual stories that like lead up to this, like this should be like the first Justice League essentially movie.
So I never played the first Injustice. I don't think I'm going to plan on getting this one either.
Sure.
It just kind of depends. But my question for you is for the story mode specifically. In the past fighting games, their stories, you basically have like one character and you play through the entire story as a one character, and then you can choose a separate character. So not in this case. This case, you play like levels as different characters.
Yeah. So like when you go to like single player, it says, do you want just to play matches or do you want to do story mode? And you say, okay, I want to do story mode. And it says, okay, let's do it. And then it starts off with a cinematic cut scene, setting up like the whole premise of the game, essentially. And then it cuts to somebody else, and then it cuts to Batman, and he's doing his thing, and then Batman runs into, man, who's the first fight? Cyborg. And Cyborg comes out, and he's trying to stop Batman, because Cyborg is defending Superman, what Superman's about. Batman's looking for Superman at the start of this game. And Cyborg's like, no, you're not going to get to Superman. You have to go through me, essentially. And Cyborg is fighting for, like he mentions Beast Boy and Starfire. And Batman's like, all right, fine. Like, if I'm going to have to go through you, let's do this. And then, like, it cuts from, like, the cinematic movie that you're watching. And then, like, the camera shifts just a little bit. And then all of a sudden, it's you and Cyborg in that level that you were just watching the film take place in, and now you're about to fight, and the match starts, and then you go.
That's really cool that they weave the narrative in with like the different like character swaps.
Yeah, no, it's all just 100% seamless, you know. So then, like, if you lose the match, it'll say, "Do you want to retry?" And then it starts back up as like the match starting. But then, if you're victorious, then the actual cutscene like picks up right after the match, like as the person's like kneeling there because they don't die. You're not killing anybody. It's made by NetherRealm Studios, the people that make Mortal Kombat, but you're not doing fatalities. You're just beating them until their health bar is gone, essentially. And then once you defeat them, like they take a knee and you like claim victory over them, basically. But then like the cutscene will then pick up with them still kneeling and you standing over them, and then like they'll talk and they'll do their lines or whatever, and then it just keeps moving as the story just picks up from there and just keeps going until the next encounter happens, and then you go to another fight. But you're never leaving the story, essentially. You know, it's as you're seeing the story, the fights take place within the story. And if you don't win the fights, then you just got to keep doing it until you're victorious, and then you can continue the story.
Gotcha.
Which is really fun, you know? Like, it's... You feel like you're part of what's going on. In a way that fighting games... Like you said, usually it's pick one player, and then you basically play through, like, the ladder, essentially.
Yes.
It's just one adversary after another until you get to the final and you beat the boss, and then it's like, okay, then, like, here's, like, the culmination of your story, and here's what happened, and, you know, you won this tournament, and everybody celebrates you, and then... Like, that's the story, essentially. And this is totally nuts. No, we're going to tell the story. We're just going to sprinkle in some fights in between. And then, like, after a few times of being Batman, like, the story will shift perspective to somebody else. And then it's like, okay, now you're going to be playing as Robin. Or you're going to be playing as Swamp Thing. Or, you know, all these different characters. And the story just keeps shifting as it's progressing. You're never picking characters. You're just playing the character that you're given to play as, which also is really cool because it forces you to play as a character. Usually, like, I think the first one you play as every single character at least once in the story mode. So you at least have that opportunity to say, I've played as all these characters. I know which ones I like and don't like, and because, you know, in fighting games, you'll get attached to a fighter or two, and those are your favorites, and you just kind of latch onto them, and you don't venture too far away from the ones that you're familiar with. So this one kind of, if you play the story mode first, it lets you try out kind of everybody and see what you like and don't like about them, so.
Yeah, that's actually a really smart design.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful game. Controls brilliantly. I mean, it's a fighting game that works. It's NetherRealm Studios. Like, I just love them. I love what they do. Mortal Kombat games and these games, like, they're just... They know what they're doing, and they do it really well. And I appreciate them for that. But, like, you know, like, interacting with the environments, like I said, you could... Every stage, most of the stages, I'm not going to say every stage, but most of the stages has a point where, like, if you use the attack to... It's like a super punch, essentially. You'll punch your opponent through the wall or off of the stage in some way, but they'll fly into another section of that stage. And some of the stages will have, like, 2, 3, 4 sections. And eventually, if you keep doing that, you end up back at, like, the first stage where you started most of the time. But, like, it's really cool animations for the stage transitions. Really cool. And then, like, it feels like you're playing in a much bigger area than you are. And for a fighting game, that's pretty impressive. Because most fighting games feel very constricted and restricted as far as, like, the area that you're playing in, you know.
Yeah, except, like, yeah, I mean, yeah, Never Realms. Oh, I can't say their name for some reason. They've been doing that since, like, the old school Mortal Kombat days. with like things changing around.
Yeah, like you could uppercut people through the stage, and you could go up a couple different levels, but like this is like full animation. Like you see the character flying through walls and bouncing off of things until they finally land somewhere else, and there'll be like little Easter eggs in the transitions. Like I know there's one level specifically where in the transition of the level, Killer Croc is like in the sewer and like you fly like right over his head, and he's allegedly not in the game. Like he may be a DLC character that they haven't announced, but like it's just like a fun little Easter egg of like if you know who that is, like that's cool. If not, then it's just like this weird alligator man in the swamp that you're just flying over as you transition into the next stage. So they sprinkle in that kind of stuff all the time into the transitions. Fan service, 100%. And then each character has their own special move, which you have to like build up the meter, then like you activate it, and then you have to land an attack to actually use a special move. Batman's special move, he tackles the player and throws like a bolo around their ankles, and with a device that it's like a hot air like balloon type of thing, but it's like jet propulsion, so it like just skyrockets up into the air, hoisting up your opponent high up into the sky, and all of a sudden the Batwing comes and like intercepts the opponent in midair and takes him up into space, and then drops them, and then as they're plummeting to the earth, like it shows a perspective from the Batwing in the cockpit, and it's like locking on the target, and it just starts blasting it with machine guns until they eventually come back to Earth. Super silly. Like any of these things would literally kill any of these people, right? but then it's also like superhero, so you're just like, okay, I can see that. Like if this was Mortal Kombat, like it would go into like X-ray mode, and you'd see every bone in their body just crunch and break into like just disintegrate. Like that's the kind of moves that they're doing here. But it's just silly fun. Like okay, superheroes. Like Superman flies their opponent up into the air and then like punches them, and then they go flying across the sky, and then like you speed up and then you punch them again, and then you speed up even faster and you get in front of them to the point where you just stick out your hand and they just like smash right into your hand midair, and then he just like slams you back down to the ground from like 50,000 feet up in the air. It's like, yeah, Batman's dead, right? Like, Batman isn't surviving this thing, but at the same time, it's like, whatever, it's DC. You be silly, DC. So it's fun. Like, it's just fun, man. I'm so excited to get back into the story mode and just keep cranking through it and check out all the new characters that they've added and see what they're capable of and kind of see where the story goes, because it's really good, man. It's really good.
Yeah, that's definitely the most intriguing part of it to me, is the single player and the story that's around the single player. So
right. So that's Injustice 2. If you're a fighting game fan, if you're a DC fan, if you like NetherRealm games, if you liked the first Injustice, any of those things, I highly recommend this game. One other game I want to talk about, and I don't want to talk about it too much because, for one, it's hard to explain. Two, you really have to experience it. But it's What Remains of Edith Finch. Now, it's a PS4 exclusive. And it's made by the Giant Sparrow guys. The ones that made the Unfinished Swan a few years back. First released on PS3, then they remastered it, or just brought it back over to PS4 because it didn't really need remastering. But pretty basic game. But this is only their second game, and it's an experience type of game. It's a Gone Home style game. You're walking around, you're exploring. You think it is at first, essentially, and basically the premise is you have inherited your family's house that's been in the family for many generations. But unfortunately, there's something going on with the family to where everybody dies untimely deaths. And once a family member dies, whoever is still living in that house will board up and lock up their rooms as is. Like, and just leave them completely untouched. And eventually, you're going to run out of bedrooms. So this family just keeps adding on to the house. They just keep building more additions and more stories and more weird rooms jutting out of all these different directions just to accommodate more people living in it. Because when people die, they don't like clear out the room and let somebody else live in there. Like, it essentially has turned into a museum or a mausoleum of this entire family and all of their deaths. But so you have inherited the house. You haven't been back since you were a kid. You used to live there as a kid. Now you're back. Like, you swore you'd never come back. And now you're back because you haven't inherited. And like, you are essentially the last remaining family member. And you start walking through the house and you're just like, okay, I'm going to look at this house from a different perspective than I did as a kid. Like, I want to know what's going on. Like, you were never allowed in any of these rooms. You could only look at the rooms through peepholes as a kid. So now, because nobody's stopping you, your mom, your grandma, all these people aren't there anymore to stop you from going to the rooms, you're going to go in and you're going to investigate. And like, you have a little journal with you and you start rifling through the rooms. And each room has like a little thing that will activate, and it starts telling the story of the family member that once resided in the room, and it still starts telling the story of how they died. And we're talking kids, we're talking, teenagers, adults, elderly people, wide range of ages, and nothing is in chronological order. It's just like how the rooms you come across. But each family member was super different than the last, and each one of their deaths was greatly different from the last. And none of the deaths are specifically straight up said, like, this is how the person died. It's more of like an interpretation of how they died. And you play through different sorts of animations and different sorts of like scenarios and in various different ways to kind of learn the story of each one of your family members. And each person, like, you play a different section completely different than the last one. It's just like it feels like a collection of mini games, because nothing ever feels the same. It's never like, I played it as this character last time, so I'm going to do the same mechanic. It's like, no, that's not ever going to happen in this game. Which is fascinating that they pulled, 10, 12 different characters out and told different stories and all these different deaths, but still made you play the game so differently with each one. And then by the end of it, and so like you complete one, you could never really fail at all. Like, the story will just it'll just like kind of sit there until you figure out what you need to do or do what you need to do. And then like, once you get to the point where it's like, okay, I know how this person died, like, the story just kind of tapers off, and you take like a little note in your journal of like, this is Molly and this is how Molly died. And then you move on to the next room. You figure out how to get into the next room, because all of them are locked up. You don't have the key for any of them. So it
has a little bit of puzzle solving as well.
A little bit. Like, you're not like pulling levers and switches and like trying to activate like pressure sensor buttons like the witness or anything like that. Like, it's just like, okay, I can't get in this room, but well, there's this window over here. Let me see. Oh yeah, I could crawl through this window, and then I could get in through this way. So very, very, very light puzzle solving.
Gotcha.
Just enough to make it not a straight up walking simulator. Make you feel like you're interacting with things a la Gone Home, but also make it feel like you're exploring and you're actually doing the work to advance. It's pushing you along, but you also feel accomplished when you get into the rooms. You're just like, I did that. And it's like a 3.5 hour little game. Not excruciating, but the emotional roller coaster that it goes on. Like, it will be like a fun, whimsical experience for one character, and then like the most gut-wrenching experience for the next. And you never see it coming. Most of the time when the story starts for a character, you think it's going to go one direction. You're just like, okay, I see what's going on here. And then it just takes a hard right turn right into a wall. And you're just like, whoa. Okay, I wasn't ready for that. Yeah, super, super emotional. Some of them were incredibly hard to experience. And it's just like, you have to sit through it to advance, and you do, and that's even worse. You're just like, I'm just going to skip this one because I don't feel like finding out what happened. It's like, nope, you got to do it. You got to sit here and deal with all of this emotional baggage. And for being so short and so quick and not having any connection to any characters at all before you start the game, the amount of connections that you make in such a short amount of time is astonishing. Like, I have no idea how they managed to pull it off, but you're just like, I don't want to know about this character, or like, I desperately want to know what happened here type of thing. And you're emotionally invested so quickly. And then by the end of it, there's like this giant sigh of just like all of this weight finally coming off of your shoulders. Like, that was like a 3-hour therapy session that you just went through, and it feels good. It feels painful, but it feels satisfying at the end. Like, you're not left with like, what if, or what happened, or I didn't get this, or I missed this type of thing. I was like super confused at the end because like I had like one trophy pop like at the very end. And I was like, oh, I didn't even think about there being trophies in this game. So then I got paranoid. I was like, oh no, were there other characters that I missed? Like, was I supposed to do different things that I didn't do? And I went and looked at the trophy list, and the trophy list is basically like, if you do certain things a certain way throughout different points of the game, you get a trophy. But none of the trophies will impact the story in any way whatsoever at all. So whether you get them or don't get them, you're not missing out or gaining anything by doing so, and I appreciate that. And then after you beat the game, you have the ability to go back and select individual characters that you want to go replay their level, essentially, for the specific trophies if you want to trophy hunt. So you don't have to walk through like the entire game all over again.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's true. That reminds me of kind of like Inside. Once you beat that, you can go to different chapters.
Yep, exactly. And it's just like, yep, I need to do this here, and then I could jump out and I could go do this. And yeah, it's an emotional ride. I will say that. I don't want to say too much else because, like I said, it's definitely something needing to be experienced and not just talked about. But there is a nod to their first game, Unfinished Swan, that was so unexpected that when it happened, I was like, oh my god, I can't believe they're doing this. And like, I was sitting on the edge of the couch and I was just like so giddy and so excited. I'm like, you little devils. Like, I forgot that it was you guys that made this game up until this point, and it's just like, oh, that's so good. Like, you guys are too smart for your own good, But like, if you didn't play Unfinished Swan, it wouldn't take away from the experience that you had in that particular level. It would just be like, okay, that was fun. But anybody that played Unfinished Swan, like, you got like an extra, like, oh, that's really good. That's good. That's smart. And then you start thinking, like, was this game in development before Unfinished Swan? Did it start development while Unfinished Swan is also being worked on? Was there a giant, whiteboard of ideas for Edith Finch that maybe had leaked into like Unfinished Swan territory or vice versa? It starts like by the end of it starts feeling like M. Night Shyamalan a little bit, where like how far out is are they planning these? Like is there like a solid plot line going through these two games that the next one might dive in a little deeper here, or am I just reading too much into it? But the fact that I got all of that from like this 3-hour experience was just incredible, absolutely incredible.
Yeah, that would. I mean, the game sounds great. That would be brilliant though if they made all their games so different, because the Unfinished Swan came out, I mean, in the PS3, that was like 5-6 years ago,
right?
And they're making their follow-up 6 years later as a connection to the original game. That's really smart.
Yeah.
And I would love them to continue to do that, because like each time their games come out, like you have more and more like connection to the characters and the worlds that they've created, because you kind of already have hints of it.
Yeah.
So,
and the thing is, like, I didn't even think that there would be or could be any sort of connection. Like, up until it happened, I couldn't have sat here and come up with a way for Unfinished Swan and Edith Finch to be connected in any way, shape, or form. Not at all. Because they are so radically different as games.
right.
But then it happened, and you're just like, oh, it was there the whole time. And then I'm like, and now I want to go back and play Unfinished Swan and see, like, were there hints at Edith Finch in that game? And like, oh man, so good,
Yeah, I definitely need to finish Unfinished Swan. I know it's pretty short, so I think I'm gonna play that before I play Edith Finch, because I'm definitely planning on playing Edith Finch. So.
And like we talked about this before, like your big thing with Unfinished Swan is you didn't like the first how the game started and like the mechanics of like the room that's just all white and you have to kind of find your way by flinging paintballs to color things.
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily that. I just, I talked about this before. I think it was just a game that I just was not the right time or right place for me to play that type of game, because like if you want to play a video game and you want to like, I don't know, shoot a bunch of stuff, kill a bunch of stuff, get loot and stuff like that, it's just not the game for you. That's a game to just like kick back, relax, put your headphones on, and just immerse yourself in this world, because it is the closest thing, in my opinion, to virtual reality experience, that type of genre anyway, because I feel like those type of games, since they're so slowed down, that I feel like you project yourself onto that character more so than a game like Destiny or a game like, Halo, something like that. So, yeah, I just don't think I was ready for it. So like I want to go back to it, because in the back of my mind I'm constantly thinking about it. I have many games on my PlayStation hard drive that I'm delete because I run out of room, but that's one that's always sat there because I'm like, I'm going to play the game eventually.
And the thing is, like with Unfinished Swan, each level plays completely different than the last, and like it feels, again, like that's why it shouldn't be surprised that Edith Finch was like this, but like each new experience is a different mechanic of how to play the game while still telling the same story, just in a different way, which is really smart. And Unfinished Swan was definitely the foundation as far as like how that was going to work in Edith Finch. So it's fun looking back at that game and kind of seeing how the gameplay aspect of Edith Finch came from Unfinished Swan. So I can't say enough good things about Edith Finch. Like I would love to do a spoiler cast on this type of thing and just talk about everything that happens. But like I really encourage everybody that has the opportunity to play it. It's definitely worth $20 or whatever it is. It's for that short of an experience without a whole bunch of replay value. I understand people's hesitations, but the emotional connection that you will have with this game, or will most likely have with this game, is definitely worth it in my eyes. So What Remains of Edith Finch? Go play it, folks. All right. Got that out of the way.
I want to play that.
Yeah.
I know so many games.
I know.
On the back burner.
Just eventually, Colin. Like, if you're going to wait, like, good news is it will be on sale eventually. It might even be on PS Plus eventually. I'm not saying jump into it now because I know there are plenty of things on your plate. But if you ever get to a point where you're just like, I have nothing to play and I really want something that I could connect to, it'll be there, and I recommend it. It would. The one thing that I'm disappointed by, is this would have been such an incredible VR game.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's not on PSVR, it kills me. Like, when I'm playing this game, I look over and see the headset, and I'm like, man, this would have been it. Like, this would have been that next game after Resident Evil 7 to be justifying the PSVR. It's just, it's sitting right there for it to be. And maybe later, like, maybe they'll patch something in. Who knows? Like, maybe they were so far in development of this, like, they couldn't work that in to get this out in a reasonable time. And now that it's out, maybe they'll have that opportunity. Man, I would love to play this game in VR so mad. So much. So, we'll see, man. We'll see.
Yeah, it surprises me that the genre doesn't have more VR experiences.
Yeah. That's what it should be for.
Yep.
They'll figure it out eventually.
We hope so, for sure.
I hope. Colin, this has been fun.
Yeah.
Next week, like I said, we're going to be doing our E3 predictions. So all the listening audience out there, I implore you to get a hold of us and let us know any E3 predictions you may have. Want to see, that kind of stuff. Shoot us an email, joysofgames@gmail.com. Let us know what you think is going to happen. Colin and I will be breaking it down next week. We'll run through Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft. We might do like an other category, even though I feel like, the third parties like EA and Ubisoft will fit into Sony and Microsoft. Bethesda might be worth doing its own little segment, because I feel like they have some tricks up their sleeve.
Yes.
But we'll do fun. We'll do some fun things. I mean, we're pretty phenomenal at these prediction shows, so we'll try to keep the streak alive next week. On Joys of Games. Until then, Colin, where can people find you at?
They can find me on Twitter at PDX_geek.
Excellent. You can find myself on Twitter at The Noise with a Y. And you can follow the show on Twitter at Joys of Games. I'm sure Colin will be mad tweeting like a crazy person during the Nintendo Direct tomorrow. Possibly the Destiny 2 reveal on Thursday.
Oh, yeah.
So stay tuned for that. But until next time, play some video games. Enjoy them. Good night.
Good night.